Do you really understand what that NAR lawsuit was all about in August of 2024? Huge question I get when clients call in and ask, yeah, I understand it. I completely know what's going on. And I say, okay, how do you understand it? Well, as a seller, I don't ever have to pay commissions. I say, okay, slow down. Let's all really understand what happened. There were many confusing things that were on the news. And even when I was watching it, I was like, what are they talking about and telling the consumer to really, that we were all in cahoots? If you were to back up years ago, the way the contract and the listing agreement read is that it says, I, as your listing agent and the broker, charges 6% to sell your home, and we will offer, and you fill in the blank, we will offer 3% to the buyer's broker for compensation to the buyer's agent. You can put in a flat fee, but technically you're collecting the full amount of commission up front as the listing agent and verifying how much you're going to share with the buyer's agent. Now, what happened is at the end of the transaction, when everybody's at the signing table, the surprise happened at the 11th hour, and the sellers would say, whoa, I just paid this guy 6%, but he only gave 1% to the buyer's agent. That's where you cannot undo things. It's already on paper, contracts, it's written, things are done. You can't unravel it. That's where people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe everybody was doing this. Well, trust me, it's not fun being the agent on the other side, because I've had that happen where I sold a home to a buyer and they took 6% and only offered me 1%. We have no control over it. I couldn't change it. Now, August 17th, 2024, when they ruled the new policy changes, it was all about that transparency. Everybody wants to know who's getting paid by who up front. As we know, everything in real estate is negotiable. Everything from the front to the back of the transaction is negotiable. The listing commission, the buyer's commission, the amount of the house sale, whatever seller concessions you're going to be offering, the credits if there are repairs on your home, that's due diligence, if it requests for repairs. I mean, everything, every step, every hurdle in a transaction is technically negotiable. That's your right. That's a buyer and a seller's right. Now, if we just step back and say, what's really happened with documentation? They kept it separate. Now, that made our life easy because now we understand what's going on up front. And what I want to show you is they separated that clause in the old listing agreement. And right now they have the new listing agreement and the new residential purchase agreement, which is the offer, separate. Let me show you. The listing agreement now has item 5, the compensation to broker. The seller agrees to pay a commission of blank % or a dollar amount of the final sale price or lease amount to the listing broker upon a successful closing of the subject property. This commission is exclusively for the listing broker services and is not subject to sharing, splitting, or otherwise distributing to any buyer's broker or agent. The seller acknowledges that any commission arrangement with a buyer's broker, if applicable, must be covered by a separate agreement, residential purchase agreement, and is not covered under this listing agreement. Simple. Now, I'm a Mr. Buyer agent. Here's my offer. I want to buy that house. I love that house. Great. The purchase agreement, page 2. Item 2, top line. Buyer representative, buyer broker compensation. At the close of escrow or the exchange of the subject property, seller shall pay the buyer's representative, buyer's broker, blank % of the gross sales price of the property or a flat fee of blank. Upon execution of this residential purchase agreement or subsequent counteroffers, this clause is no longer negotiable, exclusively between buyer and seller, and any modification thereafter must be ratified in writing by the buyer's representative, buyer's broker. I hope that makes a lot of sense. We're just separating it, knowing who's paying what up front. There's no surprises at the end. Now, if you were to say, Denise, email me, DM me, text me, whatever, I will give you this sheet. You can find it online, but the National Association of Realtors did provide summary pages for the consumer. You can go in there and look at what the seller's cheat sheet is and the buyer's cheat sheet. But right here, it breaks down When a buyer is working with an agent, they are now mandated to sign a buyer broker agreement. That breaks down many things, which does cover this. Again, everything's negotiable. Let me ask Mr. Sellers out there. When you bought that house that you're selling, did you pay a commission? No. Buyers don't pay commissions. They never have, really. So sellers have always paid commissions, both the buyer and the seller side. Now, when the buyer is trying to buy their home, they're worried about saving enough money for a down payment, saving money for closing costs, and that's not their traditional role of coming up with another 3% to pay the buyer broker. That's just not feasible for home ownership, let alone nowadays it's very, the affordability factor is challenging. So the buyers don't have extra money to pay commissions. Now, yes, Mr. Sellers, you have the right not to pay commissions, but it's not in your best interest. You are asking the public to bring you a buyer. How are you going to compensate them to bring you a buyer? Plain and simple. Now, as a buyer, you will be signing that document, and it's broken into 4 categories. Technically, I'll make it short and sweet. You need to know what your buyer's agent is going to charge. So for the ease of simplicity, it's 3%. Most traditional ways across the country. And yes, in the higher expensive price points, Silicon Valley, yes, it's very average to get 2%, but in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's very common for 3%. Across the country, it all adjusts, but let's just keep it to Vegas. What does your buyer agent charge? Okay. Denise Cesena, 3% is buyer's agent. Okay, now, second question is, what are you providing? What service are you providing? What am I going to be getting for that service? That also is huge key when you're talking to a listing agent. Now, secondly, the conversation and the agreement here is it a flat fee? Is it a percentage? Is it going to be paid by only the seller? Now, if a seller says, no, I'm only going to pay 1%, the buyer and the buyer's agent have to discuss who's going to pay the rest. Again, that's negotiable. And yes, if you have it in writing for 3%, but somehow you manage to find 2.5% and the agent is okay with it, you can put it in writing that the buyer and the buyer broker will agree to sell for 2.5%. That again is negotiable. You put it in writing, you put it into escrow, and everybody's getting the house they want. It's very much common sense. Now, I'm going to make one statement and I'm going to wrap it up. For those of you who work hourly, let's just say you make $50 an hour. And say you have a salary and you're making $120,000 a year. When was the last time you walked into your office and the big boss says, today you're working for half of your salary? You wouldn't, you would go home. When was the last time the guy comes up to you and says, hey, Chuck, you are now working for $25 an hour. Screw the $50 an hour. You're $25 an hour today, just because I said so. Who does that? Now that's what we get the question, hey, I want you to cut your commission. I want you to give me the best service. I want you to give me the most exposure, all of the bells and whistles of the elite listing package that we provide. But I want you to only, do it for a 1%. Why? It doesn't make sense. So what are you getting? You have to ask your listing agent, what are you providing me? What extra marketing strategies and things am I providing in order to validate my commission? If you want a discount broker and you go to the 1% guy, great. Slap it up, throw it. Hey, good job, catch you later. It's your prerogative. You could do what you want. It is in your best interest to pay a buyer broker, but it is not your obligation or right. You have all the choices in the world. And just ask yourself, what kind of service do you want? We are in a full service business. We are Vegas real estate advisors. We are advisors for a reason. It's not only point A to point B of buying the house, it's before, it's after, and many questions that arise throughout. It's not just, hey, here's a house and sell it. That's not the case. So I hope this sheds some light on the fact of these NAR lawsuit policy changes from 2024. I talk to agents in the office that have been an agent over 10 years and they don't even know what this means. They don't even know how to talk to their clients about it. Everybody's confused. And I was like, I just want to say something. So I am saying something. I had to put it on YouTube. So there is nothing that's a surprise anymore. I would love your comments. Click like, subscribe. Tell me where you're calling from, what marketplace. And I know every marketplace in America is super different. We all do things differently. But in Las Vegas, we're still your very regular business as usual. And 99% of everything is like it was the last 100 years. So again, this is Denise Cesena, Vegas Real Estate Advisors. Talk to you later.